All right, so how many of you guys have been through this whole situation, right? And what, I'm about to talk about does not mean what you think it means, right? So how many of you guys have walked into a financial institution, a bank, and you have said, "I would like to cash my check," right? What you mean when you ask that is you think it means I'm going to give you my check for the amount that is written on there, and you are going to hand me back cash. That seems to be the normal transaction that happens between the person and the teller. Well, unfortunately, what that means to you when you say, "I would like to cash my check," does not mean the same thing to the person that you are speaking to. Most of the time, you think it's supposed to be just this normal transaction. And the most common response when someone does not give them the money or the funds is, "Well, I don't understand. The check is good." Well, unfortunately, you have no idea if that check is good because when the person that you are speaking to thinks of the check, it just means that that check is just a piece of paper with a series of numbers and obviously a name, a date, and a signature that's on there. And that's all it is. It is simply a promise to pay. That promise to pay does not always come through because that promise to pay takes a few days in order to communicate. So there's a pretty much a three-way channel to communicate. The first institution will talk to the Fed, and then from the Fed, it will talk to the second institution, and they tell them whether the funds are there or not. So the institution that is going to be giving you the money is taking a risk of saying, okay, well, if you're asking for $500, then we have to make sure to collect on that $500. So there's got to be some type of reasonable decision that's made from that time because there is no guarantee that those funds are ever going to be collected. And if those funds are never going to be collected, that means you owe them. And how are you going to pay them back when you didn't have it in the first place, or you may not have had it in the first place? So they have to make that risky judgment or that risk assessment to either give you the funds right now and assume that the funds will come in or not. So that promise to pay just means that, hey, if you've got a good history, then it makes sense to give us, to give you those funds. But if you do not have a good history, then why would someone give you those funds? Because it may mean that they'll never collect. And even though 100, $200 may not be a lot of money for one individual, if that institution incurs a loss for, let's say, 5,000 to a couple 100,000 to a couple million of the same type of loss because they did put their trust into the institution or into the person that they're giving the funds to, then they end up losing a ton of money. Now, obviously, that doesn't, disregard the fact that some of them are predatory, and I'll discuss some of the other things that we'll talk about that you guys have experienced as well. But this vocabulary of "I would like to cash my check" really just does not mean what you think it means because of the simple fact that the transaction has to make sense to them. So if you're asking for, $5,000 and you have $0 in your account, they're going to place a hold on that check for as long as necessary to make sure that it's safe in order to, you know, collect on the funds as fast as they can, right? So I hope that helps. I hope that explains a lot to you because that is one thing that I know it bothers a lot of the people who have to deal with the money and the check situation, and sometimes they may not be able to explain it quite as well because they have to teach you guys that it doesn't just come immediately, and those funds take a little bit of time to collect. So hope you guys have a good one.